Hello, and welcome to Film Slam Stream's post-film conversation for the test. My name is Eric Siler, and I'm an instructor of film, media arts, and communications, as well as moderator for this conversation. We're very pleased to be joined by co-directors of the test, Claudia Myers and Laura Walters Hinson. Hello, Claudia and Laura, and welcome.
Hello,
Hi.
thanks for having us.
It's great to have you too as well. Claudia and Laura are colleagues and professors at American University, and they collaborated on this film. So I understand, Claudia, you came up with the idea for this film. Tell us how you got connected with Goodwin House and decided to actually make the film.
Yeah, so I read an article in the Washington Post that was about this volunteer citizenship program at what is now Goodwin Living. And it was just such a beautiful article about how these retirees had come together and volunteered their time to tutor staff members within their community who wanted to be citizens. And the program also pays for the cost of the application, which kind of lifts a financial burden. But they had been so successful. They had, I think when I read the article, they had 90 staff members become citizens through this initiative. And it wasn't just that it was such a nice thing for the retirees to do. It was about this very kind of symbiotic relationship between what it gave the retirees, a sense of purpose and connection, and what it helped, what it did for the staff members, which is really make them feel part of this community, make them feel supported and included. And so it was that kind of this two-way street that was just really lovely between these really different groups of people who are each in their own way, I think, underrepresented in the media and often marginalized in our society. And it just was a very beautiful and inspiring piece. And so I reached out to Goodwin Living, and they vetted me pretty heavily. It took about 6 months, or it took about 3 months to get their permission to kind of get access to the people within the program, and it grew from there. And I very quickly decided this was going to be a documentary. I went in thinking it might be actually a fiction script that I would develop. And once I knew it was going to be a documentary, I thought I really need a partner on this. And so I reached out to Laura, who is the perfect partner in every way and has really impressive documentary experience, and is just someone I really wanted to collaborate with.
So Laura, when Claudia reached out to you, what was your response to this? Were you eager to jump on board? Were you looking for something like this?
Well, I was so excited that Claudia reached out to me, and I was flattered. And we have so much fun just working together as colleagues at American. And so I thought, well, this will be an experiment, but I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And so I had actually read the same article that Claudia had told me about, and I remember reading it. And this was like in 2021 during, kind of the somewhat waning days of the pandemic. And I remember I cried. I read the story and it brought a tear to my eye. This, as Claudia so beautifully stated, this kind of wonderful symbiotic relationship between the employees and the staff members at the Goodwin House, as we call it, the specific center where we were, and then the residents. And I was particularly taken by the way that many of the immigrants who were working there came from cultures that really revere seniors and revere the elderly in their culture. And yet we live in a culture where the elderly are often marginalized. And so here were these seniors who were being, I'm hearing a feedback. Are y'all hearing my feedback? Okay, good. I'll keep going. And here were these seniors who were being cared for by these people who really were uh, genuinely loving them. And so I think that beauty of that reciprocity of the storyline, and it was so kind of redemptive and beautiful. It was something that we needed in the time that we were in terms of getting through COVID. We needed that story of hope. And so when Claudia came to me, I was like, oh, the world needs a story like this, a story of hope. And so I was thrilled to take part. Oh, I think you're muted, Eric.
Okay, interesting. Let me see. I'm trying to work through some technical thing. I think this is better now. Is the feedback still there? Is it gone?
It stopped. Whatever you did, I
Okay,
stopped
great.
it.
Okay. Um, yeah, sorry about that. Claudia, you mentioned it took nearly 6 months to actually convince Goodwin Living to for you to do this documentary. What was the hesitation on letting you do this project?
So I think, to be fair, it was maybe closer to 3 or 4, maybe 3. But I completely understood their reservation. When the article came out, there was a lot of interest in this community and this program and the people that were mentioned in the article. There was just, and they were trying to kind of protect the people in their community. They didn't want someone who might try to use it to, maybe um, tell a story that wasn't what they saw the program as. And I think they were just maybe worried of having people feel exploited or exposed or not have their privacy respected. So they were just very cautious. And they also just vetted me professionally and asked for references and wanted to see my work. They just wanted to understand what my point of view was. So a lot of it was me having conversations with many people at Goodwin Living and really just trying to tell them, like, what is it that I appreciate about this story? What do I want to highlight if I tell a story? And like I said, I went into it thinking, oh, maybe I'll find a true story and I'll adapt it as a feature, because my first thought is fiction. And then the more I spoke with people on both sides of this program, the more I thought, you can't improve on this. This is a beautiful, these relationships are really special. They're really unique. Each story is unique. I don't need to fictionalize this. What I need to do is I need to capture the essence of what this really is and how this can change people. And how it can sort of show the best in people in a way that we're not used to seeing. And so that's what was driving me. And they, once they really understood that, and I was able to articulate that, but then they were extremely generous and very open. And so, like, they gave us complete access, and we did, we'll talk, I'm sure, about the shooting, but there was a lot more kind of groundwork than there was actually. Like, our shoot was extremely efficient and focused, but there was just a lot of time spent trying to understand this community and understand both of the experiences of the two groups that we represent.
Absolutely, gaining the trust of your subject and the people behind the content is very important in a documentary to be successful. Laura, when you Eric, having him as a subject, how did you and Claudia settle on Eric when there have been many different people that Goodwin Living has helped?
Sure. Eric, and Claudia could speak to this as well, but when we met Eric, there were a number of things about his story that really drew us to him specifically, because there were a number of folks who were going through the program, a number of folks who had already gone through the program. We could have, if we'd wanted, we could have made a feature out of all the different stories, but we chose to keep it short. We chose Eric specifically for a number of things, number of reasons. One is that Eric, such a humble, gracious person who at the same time was happy for us to follow him with our cameras. So you don't find often subjects who are both humble, but also expressive and are okay for you to film their phone calls with their loved ones and being in their home, etc. And Eric, I think, was so excited to finally be on this journey that he really welcomed us in and gave us open access to his life. And so that was a really important thing for us. Another thing was just where Eric was in his process and the way that he had been away from his wife and 3 children for 8 years on this quest to become a US citizen, and just the sheer stakes of that. And, as educators, all of us, we talk a lot about, like, a good story has to have high stakes. And for Eric, everything was riding on this for him. His future of his family. He had literally given up 7 or 8 years of being with his children, his small school-age children, in order to reach this goal and create a better life for them. And so we knew, oh my goodness, the stakes are so high. And then I would say third, the couple, the residents that he partnered with, Jill and Carl Miller, were just such delightful people. They were like this beautiful couple that you wanted to adopt as your own parents, your own grandparents. You just loved them. And there was this beauty to their relationship that had developed since they were tutoring Eric. And Claudia, I'll let you tell. Do you want to tell the story of what Eric called Jill and Carl and how that so gripped our hearts?
Yes. So in my sort of early meeting with Eric, before we even knew we wanted to make this a documentary, and I was talking with a lot of people who had been through the program, were going through the program, and I met with Eric, and all the things that Laura said that I won't repeat about his personality. But when I asked about his family, and I sort of wondered at how he had how their relationship had been maintained over 8 years. His little girl was so little when he left. And he said, "Oh, I talk to them every day." And I said, "Really?" And he says, "Oh, yes, several times a day." And he said, "I'll call them right now." And so he called his wife in our very first meeting. He got her on the phone on WhatsApp. So they always talk on, video, on a video chat. And he introduced me to her. And then he said, "Put the girls on the phone." So, he gets his second child on the phone, his third child on the phone. They're all kind of like waving and saying hello. And there was just this pride in his family and this love. And it was really beautiful. And it was, I thought, pretty remarkable that they really had found a way to stay close. Not that it wasn't, I'm sure, incredibly difficult at times for both of them, but there was a kind of joy in how they interacted that, when we were talking about potential subjects for the film, that really stood out as something that I think was also really relatable to people. I think, in some of the stories that we hear about, kind of the immigrant experience, I think the sacrifices that people make to be here are not always evident. And we felt like this is a really tangible sacrifice that he's making, that they're also making. And we can so easily relate to that feeling of being separate from your family, and sort of those relationships were really lovely.
Claudia, I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to ask you about the pre-production and production. Claudia, I'll go to you next and talk about post-production and screenings of the film. So can you explain to us, Claudia, well, first of all, when you started production of the film, was Eric already a citizen, or did he already pass the test? Did you know the outcome?
He was really close to the end of his process, but he was, what we filmed, which is the very final steps on his journey. And, there was this state of limbo right before we met him. And while we weren't able to film the test, but we kind of created it stylistically at the end of the film, because and we were, by some confluence of like luck and determination, we were able to film the swearing in. So we met him really close to the end, but not, we did see kind of the end of his journey unfold, which was really, really special.
Right. So if he did not pass the test, what was your plan?
I mean, we talked to people who didn't pass the test, but I think with the support he had and with the commitment he had, it was very likely he was going to pass.
Okay.
I mean, when he says in the film, like, "I had all the 100 questions in my mind," he really did. He was so determined that it didn't feel like that big of a gamble. But at the same time, people do take it again. It's not that it's the end of the road. It's just that, so I feel like you feel his sense of accomplishment when he calls his family from the car and he says, I've applied for my passport. And you kind of, so we saw that play out, and we didn't have the resources to go to Ghana to film him seeing his family for the first time, but we were, collaboratively with him, we found a way to basically hire someone with a cell phone in Ghana to film that moment of reunion. So we witnessed a lot. We didn't witness the beginning of his journey. So we kind of got all this, wonderful story at the end, and we kind of had them talk us through how it started. But yeah, and now his wife and children are in the US, and yeah.
Good. So Claudia, as a professor, you're very busy. Tell us about the support from the students in this particular documentary. Did you get them extra credit? Is this part of their curriculum?
Well, okay, so we actually worked with our graduate assistants. So one of the things that I think is really unique to our program is how kind of committed all faculty are working professionals, and how committed all faculty are to really mentor the next generation of filmmakers. So when we have graduate assistants, we almost always try to involve them in our professional work, in addition to, other students when the opportunity arises. So we have this, we kind of knew going in, if two professors are going to partner on a project, of course you're going to want to use it as a way to bring in as many talented students as you can, because it's win-win for us. We know how good they are. We know what they're capable of. They haven't had the experience, but they are often willing to kind of go the extra mile. So not only did we use our graduate assistants, but we hired a recent graduate, Amin El-Siwi, who was our kind of main cinematographer. We talked about going with a professional cinematographer, but he had such a good eye. He was so sensitive. He himself had just gone through, or was actually going through, the citizenship and the naturalization process himself. So he really related to the story. And there was something really beautiful about bringing him as a member of our team into the story, and he and Eric connected. So I think this also might be a good opportunity to hear more from Laura about this sort of co-creative model of storytelling that we were trying to implement, because we really did feel like it felt like a team effort, not just behind the camera, but also with Eric and Jill and Carl, and explaining to them, what are we doing today? What are we hoping to capture? Like, is it okay if we follow you at work all day? Is there anything that's not okay? And just sort of really getting their buy-in and their permission, so they can be relaxed and not feel like we're looking for something that, they don't know what we're really after. And then we had sort of people who have also been alumni of the program, kind of working all the way down the line in post-production, which Laura can talk about. But yeah, we felt like the project benefited from, I think, this youthful energy and this desire to really kind of be out there and making things. And I think we had a really great team.
Great. So Laura, with post-production, you kind of knew the story, but you had to actually build the story, talk about, what to go back and, and how to introduce Eric to the audience, and introduce Jill and Carl and so forth. Can you talk a little bit about how you and Claudia decided to build the story and conclude the story?
Sure. Yeah, building the story was, for me, one of the most fun and satisfying parts of the process, actually, because Claudia and I both brought a very, I would say, structural or cinematic structural approach to building the film. In the past, I've made a lot of documentaries where I just shot a bunch of stuff and then in the edit tried to figure out the story. And I would say we kind of did the opposite in this. We knew there was a natural arc. We knew there would be an end point. We knew that there was hopefully going to be this wonderful payoff of him being reunited with his family. But as we really started to look at the relationship between Jill and Carl and Eric, we really began meditating on these themes of loneliness, and the loneliness experienced by the seniors in this community and the loneliness experienced by immigrants who are coming to the country away from their family. And the way that the story is really built, the way we built it in the edit was to cinematically depict Eric and Jill and Carl in states of aloneness, right? States of being separate and away from loved ones. And that through their journey of building their relationship and really tutoring, Eric and being tutored by Jill and Carl, this problem of their loneliness was actually solved by the creation of an alternative family between the three of them here within the confines of the Goodwin Living retirement community. And so that was our arc. The payoff at the end was when he reunites with his family. That was like the icing on the cake. But so the film in many ways is not about necessarily the immigration process. We've actually gotten some critiques that, well, why don't you tell us more data or more, facts about immigration and the process? And all of that is not in the film, right? This is a human story about these people finding one another in the midst of these lonely places and becoming family. So that theme is what guided our building of the structure, our building of the 3 acts. It's set up very simply, but very kind of according to classic cinematic structure. And with that emphasis on the emotional aspect of the story, the emphasis is not on the facts and figures and data behind immigration and how difficult it is. That's for the discussion follow-up to the film, right? So that's a bit about the way that we built it very, very specifically. We had it structured and outlined, and we knew with our shoots exactly what we needed to film and why. And so we didn't leave very much on the cutting room floor, actually, because we knew really what the purpose of each of our shoots was.
And since you knew the purpose, and Laura, tell us about the response to the film, because you and Claudia have pressure on yourselves. You're teaching students how to make films and they're watching as well. So tell us how your students responded to it and the general public.
Well, our students, I hope they enjoyed it. We loved working with them and we had so much fun. And I think it's such a great experience for them to get to work with faculty members and they get a professional credit on a film, which goes with them on their resume. And so they all received formal credits on the film, including like associate producer, cinematographer. So some big credits in the film. So I think we had a blast basically working with our students. Claudia and I have also been really pleased with the festival response to the film. We've gotten into 17 or 18 festivals so far. We've won Best Short Doc at a couple of those festivals. And we've had a lot of interest from senior living communities and sort of the broader industry that works in the aging services sector about they're eager for the film to come to their communities to talk about these issues of immigration, employment, and loneliness within the aging population. And so that has been really exciting for us to just embark on a whole kind of social impact campaign to get the film out beyond just the festival circuit, but we've been very pleased with the festival response as well.
Wonderful. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up, but just real quick, what's next for the both of you? Claudia, you had so much success working with Laura. Any plans to make this into a feature? Would you have plenty of material to do that, or are you on to something else?
I think at the moment, I'm so pleased with how it functions as a short that this could change, but I do feel like we really told the story we were setting out to tell. And like Laura said, it really was about showing how these two different, groups become family and how connection is, such a vital part of the story. And so, yes, I am sort of at the moment working on a couple of TV show ideas. I'm developing a new fiction script. I have a long time project, which is based on a true story about a death penalty case in Virginia. So I'm just kind of continuing to be drawn to all kinds of stories all the time. But it's also, we're kind of still on this journey with this film in terms of getting it out in the world and having these kinds of conversations.
Absolutely. And what about you, Laura? What's next up for you?
Yeah, so I keep being inspired towards working in fiction. And so I've spent the last semester doing a screenwriting fellowship. So I've just completed a feature script, which is a sci-fi horror about women and aging. And I'm also embarking on a new feature documentary, a historical documentary. So yeah, I got two other projects in the works, and as well as continuing to see this film out into the world. So we're hoping to, our ultimate hope with the test is we really hope to get it to public television. And we've already had some interest from our local PBS station, but we're hoping to even go broader. So we'll just see, what happens in terms of distribution, but we're not done with it yet.
Absolutely. And this is almost like it's a timeless film because it just talks about so many other issues that you can expand upon: immigration, senior living, and family, and so forth. So this is really, you embarked on something really special. Co-directors Claudia Myers and Lisa Walter Hinton of the test. Thank you both so much for joining us, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.
And thank you to our audience for joining us for this important and invigorating conversation. For more information about our upcoming film festival, please visit us at clevelandfilm.org. I'm Eric Siler. Thank you.